Max likes this very much.
Welcome to
Coffee with Toffees.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Let's do this.
And welcome back to a brand new episode of Coffee with Toffees. Guys, my name is Toffees, as always, bringing you the best in news, community coverage, and everything you need to know about your Dota scene. You can find me at Toffees_Dota2, and just as a reminder, if you want to support the show and help pay for all the hosting and other fun stuff that we have to do, you can go to patreon.com/Toffees and choose to do a monthly support, or you can directly donate on the stream over on Twitch. If you're listening on the podcast or the RSS feed or any of the other avenues of the show, we appreciate you. Listening alone is more than enough support, so never feel like you have to donate. Also, though, I do want to mention you can get the brand new Coffee with Toffees mugs on the website, so they're pretty sweet. They tell everybody in the office that you know what you need to know about Dota. That said, guys, this is the next movement in our stream series, and what we're doing with that is a couple of months ago, I started this idea of wanting to reach out to the other members of the community who we don't talk to as often as the pros and kind of expand my understanding of the Dota scene. And I think the show has benefited and grown because of that, and we want to keep moving forward with it. So I'm excited to introduce our guest today. This is a streamer who has done a little bit of everything else on the side. We're going to talk about some of the other things as well, some professional or semi-pro gaming, a little bit of cosplaying, things like that. I think I've also heard rumors that there might even be some item design in the future. So this is somebody who is very multifaceted. You know her as AsiaAmore. Her friends know her as Samantha. How are you doing this evening?
I'm great. How are you doing, Toffees?
I can't complain. I'm here. I'm making my favorite show, and my kid's asleep. So those are kind of like the trifecta of a good show underway. That said, let's start out with the news that we have to get to. I know that you guys are all watching it. I know that you're probably watching it too, Asia. Would you prefer, by the way, that I call you Sam, Samantha, Asia, or AsiaAmore?
Asia works well.
All right. That sounds good to me. Good, because AsiaAmore would have been a lot to say.
A little bit.
So DAC is done. Not done. I'm sorry. The group stages, the round robin is over, and we've moved into bracket time. This is when the rubber hits the road, baby, and it is time to start flying through it. To know who qualified, it's pretty simple. We look at the top 8, and that's going to be Secret, Big God, who came aggressive towards the end of this tournament and has showed that you maybe even have to take Dota quite as seriously, I guess, because they were sort of a team that talked about just having fun with it, and is doing really, really well. Evil Geniuses, VG, Hellraisers, Na'Vi, Cloud9, Invictus Gaming. These are the teams in the top 8. They take a smooth ride straight to that winner's bracket. Then we get 4 more who are going to be joining in and are going to be in what we call the losers bracket start. They're going to be eHome, Rave, Hyperglory Team, and LGD Gaming. Now, the way that works is it's just like any other tournament, but pretend we cut out the first round of games. So essentially, eHome, Rave, Hyperglory, and LGD are waiting for their first opponent from whoever loses in the first round of the winner's bracket. So it's a little bit of a fast-forwarded format. The losers bracket is also a best of 1. That's important for you to know. The playoff winners round is a best of 3. So for instance, Secret is against Invictus right out of the gate. Secret has to beat them to 0, which was probably going to happen, unfortunately, with the way that the games have been going. And then Invictus will have to go face off, presumably against eHome in a best of 1. Winner moves on. So that's the format of the tournament. That's where it's going. Information that you need to know, guys. There was a wicked round robin tiebreaker. Did you have any time to watch any of these tiebreakers, Asia?
I wasn't watching a lot of the tiebreakers. I haven't really had that much of the chance to watch TAC, unfortunately. I've been finishing up a bunch of commissions I had in line.
Okay.
But I've been watching some of it. I've been mostly watching like Team Secret games because that's my new favorite team.
Well, and they're the hype kings too, so I can't blame you for that. I mean, they came in. For those of you who have been following, the score was 15-0. That is a
undefeated
impressive start, though. this was the round robin stage. That means that maybe some of the other teams are keeping some things secret or hidden until they get to the elimination stages. You can't trust those other wily teams to bring out their strats right out of the gate. That said, though, there was a tiebreaker for the last position. Basically, Rave had to play Tongfu and Cdec in a base. All three of them were tied, so they played each other in a round. They all beat each other once, if that makes sense. So they had
okay, yeah, I did see the CDEC game actually.
Okay, and the games were good, but it meant they had to do it again. And I gotta say, out of all of this, the people I felt the most bad for were the BTS casters, because those guys,
Oh man,
they were up until almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
such a long cast.
Oh, such a long cast. They started like 11 o'clock Eastern, so imagine going from 11 to 1. That's long. And then they came back and did it the next day. That said, Rave was able to take the win 2-0 on the second day of tiebreakers, and they will be the ones that do advance. So, biggest surprise of the tournament, Newbie knocked out completely. I don't think anybody thought that was going to happen coming in. They were the rock stars, the winners of TI, and now they are in the ditch, the doghouse. What's going to happen to their roster, I can only guess. That was brutal. The surprise for me, pleasant surprise, maybe for you as well, Na'Vi finishes number 6.
Yes, no, I'm definitely a fan of Navi. It's really sad that they don't have my favorite player anymore, Puppy, but that's why I'm secret girl now.
And that's how it works. You move with your players a lot in esports. That said, though, Na'Vi on a big bounce back. Glad to see that. Little surprised at Cloud9's performance, but hey, they made a huge comeback. So it's going to be a good tournament. I'm excited about following it. Stick to the show on Wednesday. On Friday, we'll bring you the wrap-up of how things are going as we head into the weekend. And then, obviously, weekend coverage. I'll be tweeting it out as much as I possibly can. So that is where DAC stands. As soon as DAC is over, we're going to bring together a panel. I think Grant and some other folks are going to come in and talk about the games, the rosters, the play styles. And then I'm going to see if I can't get some of the managers to drop by the show next week and talk a little bit about the experience that was the DAC. So that's it for the news section. We're done. We're moving on to the interview. Let's sit down. Let's chat with our guest. Asia, I guess I should first start out and say, do you do anything to prepare for interviews, or do you like kind of come in and just have a good time with it?
Just trying to have a good time, just be real, and speak what's on my mind, I guess.
I like that. Sounds good to me. So let's start at the beginning then. Let's go with this one first. I want to know how you got into gaming in the first place. Like, what was the first game you played, and then what kind of led from there into, playing Dota 2 every night?
Okay, well, the first game that I had ever really played was Dungeons and Dragons, which is what really got me into the whole gaming scene. My dad is really into it. We have thousands of dollars of miniatures and stuff in our house. It's kind of ridiculous how big of a D&D house we are. But anyway, that's how I initially got into gaming, and I started doing that really young at grade 2 kind of thing.
Wow.
And then it was just mostly strategy games that I started playing. I was really into Warcraft 3, really into just games like Battle for Middle Earth and Dungeon Keeper, the good old classics.
Right.
And at the time, I didn't play as much Warcraft 3, but my sisters do. I have three sisters, and they all were really into Warcraft 3 at the time, and I was just kind of I don't know how I am about it. But then we started playing it together, and then I started really getting addicted and to custom games, especially.
Right.
I played a lot of Warcraft 3 ladder, and then I moved into custom games like Vampirism, Island D, all those fun games, and then I found Dota, which at first I didn't really like it at first because I didn't get it. I played a lot of sniper, and I kind of just sat middle, and my friends were like, yeah, just use your ult to steal kills. That's how you play Dota. I was like, okay.
I think that's how everybody starts playing Dota.
Yeah, exactly. Back in Dota 1 days. And so, yeah, that's, I guess, what slowly transitioned me. And then I started playing it more because I had some friends who were playing it, and I was like, okay, I'll play with you. And then I just started getting really addicted slowly, and then it just became what it is now, which is pretty much a full-fledged addiction. I don't know. I have 4,000 games played in Dota 2.
Jeez.
And I have probably more than that in Dota 1. I don't even know. So I have a lot of games.
So you've been around the Dota scene for a long time. Before we get to that, though, so you have 3 sisters. Do you have any brothers?
No, I do not.
So your father got 3 daughters and said, you know what? I need somebody to play D&D with. I'm gonna teach them.
Four, yeah. Four of us.
Wow.
All of us, yeah.
So I mean, that's good. That's an entire quest party. So who dungeon masters? Is it your dad or did the sisters take turns?
It's my dad.
Okay. Just curious. That's the thankless job.
It's the only person impartial enough, I think.
Nice. And then finally, did you guys switch to Pathfinder? Or did you stick with D&D through the tough times?
We stick with D&D.
Classic. I like it. All right. So little spin-off questions there. You got to figure out if they're Pathfinder people or D&D people whenever you meet someone who plays.
Yeah.
That said, let's talk about your move from playing Dota a lot to... We know you as a streamer primarily. A lot of folks might not know that you played Dota semi-professionally with an all-girl team, that you traveled to a couple of lands. I believe you came in first in one of them. And did that as well. What did you do first? Were you more interested in competitive play first or streaming first?
Definitely streaming, definitely. When I first started streaming, which, oh my god, 2013 in the spring, I believe. So it's almost been like 2 years now. But at the time, I was just basically playing Dota every single day, like, you know, as usual. And I had a bunch of people just repeatedly like tell me, hey, you should really check out this site. And like I started looking at Twitch TV and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like at the time there weren't as many streamers as there are now, and there definitely wasn't as much variety in the people that you would find streaming. But I decided to just give it a try, and it was neat. At first it started off as like a really small community of like my close friends that like we just kind of like hung out, and they could help me with my gameplay and tell me what I'm doing wrong and stuff like that. And then slowly, I guess I just started like really enjoying it and really enjoying the connections I was making and the interactions that I was having. And I just started streaming more. The first year or so it was really on and off. I didn't stream consistently or anything like that. But yeah, it's all come to the point now where I'm doing it full time, which is amazing.
So you are full time. Like this is there's nothing else. It's just full time streaming as far as work goes.
I do mostly like illustration and portrait commissions on the side. Okay. But,
That's cool. So we'll get into that a little bit later. So that's how you sort of got into streaming. When you made your first stream, when you fired it up for the first time, did you have a concept in mind for what you were trying to accomplish with the stream? Or was it just, let's have fun? And is it still that way? Or would you say there's a concept on your stream now?
It definitely started off as just having fun. And I think as the stream kind of evolved, it started having more meaning to me as far as like what I wanted to accomplish, which for the most part, like right now, I'm just kind of going with the flow of things. I don't have any like specific or directed plan. I'm just kind of going with the flow of things, but like trying things out as I go, seeing what works and what doesn't work. My next plan is to kind of transition my stream into doing more visual arts, and so I can kind of like merge two of the things I love doing and be able to do game art and contribute to that and also stream it. Nice.
So you're starting to sort of maybe curtail a bit of a brand potentially. The green screen. What was the green screen inception? What caused you to do that? I've set up a green screen before. I did consulting for a small business, and we did I added the little photo booths that they have at those little tourist locations. And setting up a green screen was a lot harder than I thought it would be. So what made you do it, and was it worth the trouble?
Well, I first got it. I was watching streams at the time, and one of my friends, he's actually in the Yogscast, or he used to be in the Yogscast, Parv, and he had like a green screen set up, and it looked so crisp and so clean. I was like, that looks amazing. It looks like you're a little character inside the game. Like, I have to do that. So I just got on a kick, and I like ordered a green screen, and then had it like hung up like on a wall in my basement for a while, but eventually I got the chroma key working. You need a lot of light though. That's the only problem I find for green screens. It's like very difficult. But got it to work, and I like it a lot.
Nice. So once you got it up and running, it was enjoyable. When you last I checked in, I think it was when I first I think saw your stream and got to hear a little about what you do. It was like a year ago. Are you somebody told me you were living with your parents at the time. Is that still the case? Do you have your own studio? What's the setup like?
At the moment, it's in my room. For a while, I had it set up in the basement of my house. I currently live with my dad and grandmother, but it's kind of like I was living with someone before, ended up moving out back home, and it was really nice being back. And also, I have a elderly grandmother who I like to keep an eye on and take care of and make sure she has everything, and like so that's really good for me being around. As much as I do kind of want to transition and like move out, I'm kind of, I don't know, I feel kind of obliged to make sure she has a very comfortable transition. But at the moment, yeah, I stream in my room, my bedroom, and I have a green screen that stretches across my bedroom that I can hang up and then I can take down really super easy.
So let me ask you, the first time, and this maybe go back to when you started streaming a little bit more, how did your family react to the idea of you aggressively streaming? And I mean, to the point where like when they walked into your room and saw a green sheet hung across it and sort of you readapting your entire living space to this, what was the general reaction? Supportive, not supportive, confused? What was it like?
Oh yeah, my parents are super supportive in everything I do. So especially like my sisters too, they're all gamers, so they kind of know the scene, and they're not personally into streaming. They're more I guess introverted than I am in that sense. They don't really like being in the limelight, but yeah, I don't know. Everyone's been really supportive about it, and yeah, it's
good.
an easy transition.
So they're supportive. Do you does your dad ever hang out in the stream and like chat with people who are watching?
No.
No? Okay. I know, like, I think Prue, I don't know if you know Prue Attitude. She's in the stream watching, and she tends to, she said her husband or her father gets in the stream sometimes and talks to people.
Oh.
And I was like, gosh, that'd be really weird. Especially with some of the Twitch chat that comes up, but we will get into that a little bit later. So I heard that before you started streaming, you had a full-time job in the restaurant business. And that long story short, the restaurant just sort of disappeared. Is that the case? And then is that what pushed you into streaming?
Yeah, it was kind of just like the planets aligning in my life. Basically, at the time, like I had already started streaming, but I was seeing a lot of streams that were really taking off, and people that were being able to do this full time to make a living. And that was kind of interesting to me because I honestly did not think at that point that was a possibility. But I'm like, hey, just try it, because what's the worst that can happen? My restaurant just shut down randomly. I think I had like 4 days working notice.
Oh, yeah,
restaurants out of nowhere. Just, by the way, we're gone. It was like, what? So yeah, that kind of caught me off guard, and it just opened up kind of a huge space in my life where I'm like, why don't I just fill it with streaming and see what happens? And it was a really good decision for me, I think.
Nice. Are you allowed to tell us what franchise it was that you were working for that just disappeared?
It was called The Exchange.
I never heard of it. So
yeah, probably not, but it's just like a restaurant bar.
Gotcha. Okay, so it just shut down and went. I've worked in restaurants for a long time and had a lot of friends who that happened to. So it's fairly normal. Okay, before we get into streaming stuff, and I want to talk specifically about full-time streaming, what that's like, what the schedule feels like. I want to know this. Last year in an interview you did for your Peruvian fans, you mentioned that you were currently a psych major. Is that something that you're still doing? And if so, when's graduation? Did you take some time off? How's that going for you?
Oh, I basically, how I did it was like I had all the credits, but I hadn't graduated because I was still like deciding what I wanted to branch into. But I applied for my graduation and I have my degree now. So I have my psychology degree, minor in sociology now.
Nice. So you can sit there and analyze every single one of your viewers by the things that they say in Twitch chat. I like it. All right, so you're out with the college degree. You've got it. You're a psych major with a minor in sociology. Is full-time streaming what you're going for right now?
Not when I was going into school. It's okay. Basically, what happened is like I'm a huge visual artist. That's just like my thing since I was very young. I've always been in art, and I just had this like weird crisis, I guess, in the end of high school where I was kind of pressured into going into something other than art.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like I realized it's like one of my main passions. So I don't think I'm gonna just give up on it so likely. It's still nice to have a university degree. Like the critical thinking I gained was, you know, priceless. So
Was that your cat or my baby?
no, it's probably all your baby. No problem.
Okay, I think that was your cat. All right.
Yeah, she's literally meowing at my door trying to get in. Go away.
Nice. So you're gonna stick with this now. You said you were planning on some things in the future to move the stream into. I know that you do sketches and things like that. Are you looking to integrate that into the stream, and do you have ideas? Like, how are you gonna do that?
Yeah. Basically, what I want to start doing is building up a portfolio, and I'm just going to do that through making commissions available to my subscribers and my donators, and that's how I'm going to try and generate revenue and just produce new pieces every week, maybe like sell prints and stuff online and like give them away.
So, and are you going to do any of that artwork on stream, or is it going to be just sort of talking about it while you play Dota?
Yeah, that's the kind of neat part was I started seeing like a whole bunch of art streams on Twitch, and I was like, why don't I do this? Like I could just merge my two like passions, just boom, and have something great. So that's the plan for the next couple months is transitioning into that. It's not going to be completely an art stream. What I'm shooting for is either like a game stream in the morning and then art later in the day, or like whether I mix it up by day and people know when to tune in for what, but that's still yet to be decided.
Okay. So have you mentioned something about workshop items? Have you been working with people on workshop item projects? Are you looking at getting into that in the future? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I have actually. I actually got contacted by Flash Kick, who is a workshop artist. And he was interested in working with me on making a set and collaborating, which was pretty neat. So I chose PA because she's my favorite hero, and did all the concept drawings for it. He created the actual set, and now we have it on the workshop. We just need to get a bunch of upvotes to try and get into the game, but it's like our first set together, so we're just kind of testing the waters. I do actually really want to start moving into digital art because it's just so much more efficient, and just it's yeah, as much as I love fine arts and my paints, I really could do without the mess, and just having everything in one place on your computer without any cleanup would be amazing. So unfortunately I haven't taken a lot of media arts courses, so I'm not super skilled in Photoshop, but I'm gonna work on it and see if I can transition into that.
Where better to practice than with hundreds and hundreds of people watching you at the same time. So what is your favorite thing about streaming? If you had to break it down and just boil it down to the bare essentials, what keeps you coming back to the stream constantly?
It's definitely the people, like 100%, hands down. I mean, aside all of the trolls that are there, I meet amazing, genuine people that I've created bonds and friendships with, and it's really cool to see a bunch of, like, to create a community of people that have the same interests, that can support each other, and it's really, like, one of the most important things to me.
Nice. So do you ever struggle with, and I'll give you an example from my own experience. Sometimes it is difficult for me to know that, hey, it's Wednesday night, I'm going to have to hop on, I've got to write a script, I've got to do some research, and I've got to run a show. I'm going to give the news on Dota or introduce a new community member. And, you know, as much as I love doing it, sometimes you go through an entire night of streaming and there's not a lot to show for it, or you get flamed about it. It can be tough. Do you run into that, or do you always look forward to jumping on the stream?
Well, definitely there's a lot of ups and downs. Most of it, unfortunately, has to do with people just giving a lot of negativity towards you, but that's part of being a streamer, and that's what I'm realized. I'm constantly changing and like evolving as a person to create this like thicker skin, and just myself today versus 2 years ago, I've made leaps and bounds and becoming much less sensitive to the things that are said about me. Yeah.
Do you think that the thick internet skin you've developed has helped you in the physical world in your daily life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember like in high school, I'm sure everyone can recall just feeling like upset if someone like made fun of them. I've conditioned myself at this point. I've heard pretty much any insult about any part of me that could ever happen. So yeah, I just hear it now, and I'm kind of numb to it. I'm like, oh, that's funny, but
fair enough. So let's talk a little more about. Well, before I do want to get deep into the stream conversation, some harder hitting questions that I think are going to be fairly interesting. But before I ask that, I was shocked when I listened to an interview that you went to TI3, and it was great because it was funded, I believe, in part by the viewers of your stream. However, I heard that was the first time you had ever actually flown on an airplane. Is that true?
Yes, it is true. I've never been on an airplane before. I have traveled pretty much everywhere in the States and Canada driving, but I have 3 sisters, and it was never really cost effective for us to fly anywhere. So yeah, I had never been on a plane. So TI4 was like my first experience. It was pretty overwhelming, but it was amazing. And yeah, I'm so grateful to everyone on my stream who supported me and allowed me to do that.
So it wasn't a fear of flying. It was just not really a reason to fly prior to the event. Okay. All right. So you conquered the theoretical fear of flying. You got to go on this plane. You went to TI. And I actually talked to some folks who were there, and they said that they were I don't know if it'll come across insulting or not, but they said they were surprised at how low-key you were at TI. Like, it was almost like you were trying to stay out of the limelight to a certain extent. Is that true? And what was the reason for that?
Kind of, but kind of not. The thing that's kind of misleading, I think, is on my stream is I seem really outgoing, but the reality of it is that I'm in my room talking to like a camera. I am actually a pretty shy person, so I'm not really like super out there like, hey, how's it going? And I hung out mostly with like the people that I knew off my stream and like my friends. But I didn't get that many opportunities, I guess, to meet as many people in the community as I would have liked to.
Okay. So are you going back to TI? Are you going to TI5, and are you going to take some business cards and try a little harder to meet those people?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to push myself, just get myself out there. I can do a cosplay, which is definitely an icebreaker, to say the least.
And you did do a cosplay, correct, when you went to the last TI?
Yeah, it was my first time using thermoplastics. It turned out okay, but my next project is going to be a much larger scale, to say the least.
Have you picked it yet, or are you still thinking about it?
Yes, I have picked it. It's the Vestments of the Fallen Princess set for Vengeful Spirit.
Oh, wow.
I've already made the weapon, but the rest of it is very, very complicated, much more than I thought it would be. So I'm slowly working on the logistics, but I mean, I've got tons of time, so.
Awesome. All right, so let's move into a couple topics I wanted to touch on. The first one is one that started a bit of a brouhaha of sorts about a little bit under a year ago. It had to do with a group called Helios Esports, which I believe you played for the team that became Helios Esports originally. And what happened, for those of you who may not know, I should say that a lot of the folks who watch the show are really invested in the pro scene and don't know a lot of the community members as much. So that's kind of why I like to do this. Long story short, Asia was asked to cast on short notice for a Helios Esports game. And there were the conflagration, how do I say, the combination of perhaps your streaming habits and the esports broadcast that some folks were expecting didn't receive the best reception. So can you tell me a little bit about that experience and sort of what happened?
Okay. So basically at the time I had been with Helios Esports. I was pretty good friends with the manager. And one day she contacted me and she was like, so my caster dropped out. I need to cast somebody to cast our tournament in 40 minutes. And I was like, are you joking me? Like, it's like I had never casted before, so I had no idea. And she's like, yeah, do you think you could do it? Like, I have no other option. So I don't know. I think there was about 40 people watching the day before. Mm-hmm. So it seemed like a very low risk investment at the time. I was like, you know what, let's just go for it. Let's try it. Like, I'm not a good caster, but maybe like some of my supporters from the stream will come and we'll have a good laugh kind of thing. And I think that was my mistake, not taking it seriously enough, or realizing like how serious I guess it was going to get, or the impact that it might have had. So yeah, I jumped in there. My orientation is streaming, so my layouts for the most part are pretty straightforward. I have like the game, and then I'll have like cameras somewhere, and then I'll have like some kind of insignia or something on the screen, and that's just what I set up with the limited amount of time that I had. I jumped onto the cast. I was actually casting with my friend Rosie at the time, and I had pulled her into, because she was really into casting. She was doing like ticket casting and stuff, and I was like, do you want to try this with me? Like, you would be perfect. Like, let's just try it. Like, what's the worst that could happen? So yeah, we tried doing that, and obviously, realizing now the webcams were not adding to the cast and were like intrusive, and apparently there were people writing comments in the chat trying to inform us that it was being really intrusive, but they were being deleted. So it took a while for the message to come across, but about 2/3 of the way into the cast, we shut them off, we turned it off. We just had a completely blank overlay with like the Helios insignia. Then the next day we casted, I think, 3 games, which we didn't use the cams at all.
Right.
We realized like not a good idea, like learning from our mistakes as we go. And then I did, before that, hear like some kind of like random comments from people I knew who were like, hey, good try casting, and try doing this in the future. I do know some casters who are giving me some feedback. But then there was some like NA Dota episode talking about it that kind of unfortunately sensationalized what actually happened in a way that was kind of, I don't want to say unfair, I feel like, to me and Rosie being amateur casters. And I guess the concept behind it was they were really upset that there were cameras on the overlay that were affecting the cast, and that's completely fair. Toby had mentioned that people used to use in the BTS cameras.
Yep.
When they first started casting, that was like a regular thing, and then they realized like, this doesn't add anything to it. Let's get rid of it. Let's scrap it. And that's the exact same thing that happened with us. We realized, yeah, this isn't adding to the cast. We got rid of it. But yeah, unfortunately, the way things were dealt with, nobody reached out to me when that episode was being made, unfortunately. So we couldn't have kind of like a two-way conversation. They just did a segment on us, but not talking to us at any point. So there was a lot of facts that got misconstrued. There was a video that was used and played full screen to describe the situation that wasn't actually from the cast, and was like a huge, gross misrepresentation of what actually happened. So that was really unfortunate, because I did receive a lot of community reaction from that, but it was mostly negative, and even in the form of like threats. I got a lot of sexual assault. Yeah, I've got, oh my goodness. I just kind of stayed away for Twitch for a while. I wasn't going to my regular streams to watch. I wasn't like chatting. It was just kind of like lurking, because it was really, really bad, and it made me really depressed for a while. But these are the things that you learn from, and in hindsight, I don't think it's a good idea to try something for the first time when you're streaming. I wasn't expecting 2,000, 3,000 people to show up for the cast that we were doing, but it happened. And
well, I think you were, to a certain extent, you were a victim of viral mentality. I will say that I was actually there for the cast. I think, if I remember correctly, Panda, who is dating one of the guys, Gorgon the Wonder Cow, was playing on the team, one of the teams at the time. So I happened to stop by.
Yeah, I was on her team.
So it was interesting, and I remember seeing the cameras, and they started out really big and uncomfortable, and then they got smaller, and then they disappeared altogether throughout the night. The mods were deleting everybody who was saying, hey, turn the cameras off, for whatever reason that I won't understand, and that did make it tough. But what I'm hearing from you is the fact that the backlash was so strong that it pushed you away from your normal Twitch streams. Did you stop streaming for a little while to avoid it? I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and that's one of the unfortunate sides. of Twitch is that if the community has a certain mindset, sometimes it's hard to get away from that, especially if you aren't given a venue to kind of say how you feel about things or things from your standpoint. And which was unfortunate because I actually somebody reached out to me who works for a very known Dota organization, and he said that he had a problem with the ethical integrity of what was being said, and he wanted to kind of get a statement from me and just say, like, how do you feel about this? And I think kind of like some of the things that were said were a bit unfair, and we kind of wanted to just open a conversation. So I did give him my statement, and he did write the article, but unfortunately at the end he wasn't allowed to publish it because he was blocked by someone higher up. So what can you do?
So you never got a chance to speak your side of things. Do you think that had the Mad Crew or the guys reached out to you and given you a chance to speak about what happened, do you think that the backlash would have been smaller, or do you think it would have come the same way either way?
I think it would have come the same way either way. I tried to kind of reach out to them, and I tweeted them a photo to just say, like, here's the cast, what actually, like a screen cap of the actual cast and like what you showed, to see, you know, kind of just say, like, okay, this much is true, like, and yeah, it wasn't really a constructive conversation, but not that there really are that many of those on Twitter, but yeah, so I just kind of left it from there, and I take it as a learning experience. I don't expect to be welcomed into, you know, every community I try and go into, but I think at bare minimum I should be able to try and avoid the types of harassment that stop me from streaming.
Okay, so it did stop you. It hurt. You got threats that, I mean, no matter what you think, there's certain things, and we talked about this a little bit with Zioria, if you guys have been following the show at all, the idea that the community behind the veil of anonymity, can't say the word.
Anonymity?
Yes, the veil of being anonymous can say pretty and terrible things, and that's got to be tough to deal with. You fought your way back, you got over it, that is respectable in and of itself, but along the lines of that sort of transition, the idea of people saying some tough things, I want to talk a little bit about Reddit. I actually plinked Reddit for some questions earlier today to bring to you in the show, and
all right.
some of them were interesting, some of the comments were interesting. That said, a lot of them I think got deleted as the day went on, as people started to see some of the reactions.
Sure.
And that's a good thing, because I think it means that, you know, when others stand up, I find a lot of the dumb ones disappear. That said, here's the questions that I picked off of it, a couple of them that I thought were pretty interesting. McBadcop wants to know, why Dota 2 and not something like League of Legends? Is it about revenue, or is it about a love of the game?
Oh, if it was about revenue, the last game I would be streaming is Dota 2 right now.
Right.
I've been watching the Twitch scene for a while, and I've seen the models that work and in which games, and unfortunately Dota 2 it's first of all not where you're going to get followers, and donations are quite variable. If you are a streamer and you are looking to make revenue, go to League of Legends and CSGO, World of Warcraft, but Dota's kind of like one of those wild card games where it's kind of weird, because you'll see streamers that are really well known, that stream a lot, that have tons of viewers, but they just don't have a lot of followers, comparable to people that play League of Legends, that I think people are more supportive in that sense. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, it's just love of Dota 2 is why I stream it. It's my favorite game, hands down. Like, it feels weird playing other games, I guess, like on stream that are, well, MOBA genre at least. When I was playing League of Legends, I had a lot of people being like, you're betraying us, and I was like, oh my god, it's true.
And have you considered trying League of Legends? Like, did you actually say, man, I could probably do better here, full-time streaming, and give it a shot, or was it just never even a question?
I thought about it for a while, because, you know, like, doing it full time, as much as you love doing it, you have to look at it as like a business of some sorts, and like, you know, you have to go to where there is the demand. And I did contemplate that, but at the end of the day, like that would take a lot of the joy out of streaming for me, and I feel like that's what keeps me grounded and keeps me as a streamer that people can relate to. So I'm just gonna stick with what I love right now and see what happens from there.
I like it. None the Wiser asked, are you interested in being part of the community outside of just streaming?
Yeah, actually, I'm starting to realize now, like, as I'm trying to transition my stream, I really want to start doing more Dota art, illustration, and just kind of putting that out there, like wallpapers, just everything pretty much. Also workshop art I would really like to get into, but that's a pretty complicated thing to learn. I've been reading up on it, and I'm going to be saving up for a tablet, which should help, but it's gonna take a while.
It's gonna take a while. It's a high barrier of entry. But that's so we should. So you'd like to be more community based, you know, drawings, things like that. So hopefully we'll see things besides just the stream going forward. And I guess Reddit loves art, so maybe it'll be your way to earn their love. Just a little bit. So this was interesting, and Crestfallen brought this up on Reddit, and it gives us a good segue into a little more of a tough topic. And he says, why do you think people tune into your stream? Like, in your own words, what do you think makes them tune in?
Well, I mean, my community of like regulars, or just like everybody in general?
Anyone, everyone. Let's say regulars and casuals.
And casuals? Okay. Well, I've been streaming for quite a while, as you know. Like, I've been streaming almost 2 years now. I did go on a hiatus recently, but I'm back. But before that, I was streaming all the time. So just, I think one of the best ways to get your stream out there and noticed is being consistent and just being there so people can watch you. Because if you're not streaming, then you don't have the opportunity to start building these communities, especially if you're not being consistent with what you're doing. So that's definitely important. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Why is there? Okay. I think that a lot of people in the Dota community, I guess, would be maybe curious as to what's going on in my stream. Like, I try and make my overlays really like bright and flashy, and try and like get people to come to the stream in the first place. I try and do giveaways and stuff like that, which I'll try and advertise. I advertise through my social media. I have a lot of ways of trying to like getting traffic.
Okay, so then let's dig into the meat and potatoes of the stream. If I asked you to describe in a sentence your stream, so to somebody, the uninitiated, someone who hasn't been to your stream before, hey, I heard you're a Twitch streamer. This happens all the time when I like go to public events to be like, hey, I heard you do a podcast. What's your podcast? So what's your stream like?
My stream is just like really laid back, and just everyone wants to play Dota, but it's not super try hard Dota. It's more kind of like, let's just have fun playing this game, which is kind of nice because, you know, like, I am an amateur player. I'm by no means like professional. So the stream is obviously a little bit different, and it is more geared towards having a fun, interactive environment. So that's what I go for the most part.
Fun and interactive. I like that. So you have a lot of critics, and a lot of them say that you choose to, or what you choose to wear on your stream, with the intent of encouraging viewers through selling sexuality instead of gaming. Is that so? Let me rephrase. Critics say that you wear certain things or you stream with the intention of drawing viewers through sexuality instead of quality of play. Is that true? And what would you say to those people?
Well, first of all, when they're talking about quality of play, like, there's a lot of different types of streamers. Not every single streamer is a professional player. There's a lot of amateurs that just want to share their journey in gaming with other people who enjoy the same game. As far as using an image, I've not so much played around with my image, but I've adapted in different ways to my stream, where I've come to a point where I realized no matter what I wear, it's not going to change any type of harassment I get, or like whether I'm wearing like a turtleneck and I'm a prude, or if I'm wearing like a tank top and then I whore. It's really impossible to please everyone. So at this point, like, my philosophy is just wear what you're comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's nothing different, something I would wear out to the store or hang out with friends, and I never offend anyone there, so I would assume, and I've never been banned off Twitch, so I assume for the most part, everything is pretty acceptable. But yeah, people like to try and marginalize and categorize you with these like labels. It's like, or this, that. But I mean, the reality of it is you have to look at every individual streamer as a person and a different type of broadcaster, and you can't really just lump everyone under some kind of stereotype.
Well, and you're no slouch when it comes to gaming either. I know that a couple months ago you were up to 4.3. Has that improved? Has it fallen off terribly?
It went like it's like a teeter totter.
Right.
I got to 4.3, then I went up to 4.5, then I went down to like 4.1, and then like it's just like all over the place.
I mean, still, you're all over the place in a 4 to 4.5K area, which I think. And honest, like, let's be honest, most of us who are watching and are embarking with the interview probably have trouble getting to that 4K spot. I know that I have trouble maintaining or getting even close to it sometimes. So there is a respect to the fact that you're not just someone who's trying to do it and is, a 1K gamer dancing around on stream. By the other token, when we talk about these streams, and I am curious to see what you say about this, there are streamers who feel very aggressively like that's the whole purpose of their streaming, is to draw people in simply for the benefit of watching. In fact, if you go to League of Legends streams, there's things there that I can't even watch because I'm pretty sure if my wife woke up and walked out of the bedroom, she'd be like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I'd be in some deep shit. So there is that aspect of streaming. Do you think that that's a functional mode of stream? And like, what's your opinion on that sort of thing?
I think there's a lot of like gray area right now, especially because you're seeing kind of not the merge, but you're seeing a lot of Justin TV aspects coming into Twitch TV right now, which I don't personally think is a bad thing. Streamers are trying to find different ways that they can interact with their audience, and one thing that audiences really like is being able to relate to the streamer in a real life setting. So seeing like one of their favorite streamers, lose it and like fall on the ground because of a game, like, that's entertaining to them. And I think, yeah, that kind of interaction keeps things interesting, not only for the audience but also for the broadcaster, especially if you're streaming like the same game day after day, you want to have fun with it, you want to just so I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Obviously we do want to keep streams based towards gaming, and that's kind of like one of the rules obviously on Twitch, is it has to be related to games. But then you get into all those gray areas that it's like, well, I'm doing this and it's sort of related to a game. So I mean, most of that obviously is up to the moderators, but yeah.
Okay, no, I think that makes sense. So when we talk about your stream in particular, like you've said, you're just here to play. You just want to be comfortable. You just want to be yourself. I've been to your stream. I've never seen you do a donate $5 and I'll do jumping jacks sort of thing. That's nothing that happens on your stream. But I think that we can, I think that some of the hate that you get on Reddit is because you're perceived that way, or just because there are guys who stop by the stream for no other reason than to say, wow, a pretty girl who plays Dota, that's pretty awesome, and enjoy that. Is that something that, you welcome the fans? You say it is what it is? Or does that not really ever cross your mind?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not hurting you, it's traffic. And being a girl on Twitch for a while was a niche. There were not as many female broadcasters, which was a shame. And it's really amazing now, especially when I look at like Dota, like I'll look at the streams that are going all the time, and half of the streamers are female streamers. And to me, that's amazing, because when I first started streaming on Twitch, I honestly think there was like one or two other girls. There were not a lot of women that were broadcasting at the time. So yeah, seeing that was really encouraging, I think, to see kind of, slow changes like that and
Right.
seeing people getting more involved. So that was really nice, I guess.
Okay, so the scene has expanded and improved.
Yeah.
It sounds like, your entire intention is just stream, have a good time, but you want to make a job out of this. Have you considered or looked at other avenues to run with? Like, is this something where you're like a lot of streamers out there, myself included, who have headshots and voiceover demos and are looking for outside work as well in the terms of being on camera? Or is it just you're on camera because you stream and that's about it?
It definitely started off as that, and I'm just only really getting to the point now where I'm starting to actually see the opportunities for different venues and different ways that I can kind of go with what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't know.
All right, so it's sort of like when I work with small businesses and you started out with a hobby that you've now realized I can diversify into potentially pursuing, at least for the time being, as a profession. And you're kind of figuring out those steps at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Like for now, like I think what I do want to concentrate on is like it's my own like independent stream. I'm not partnered with anything at the moment. I have had offers, but I don't know. To this point, I haven't been persuaded to go that way about it. I do like all of the freedom that I have with my own stream. Just whatever, like I feel goes, that's what we do. And that's, like amazing. But obviously creating this into something that's sustainable, I may possibly consider moving into things like that in the future or trying to. But yeah, whatever opportunities come up, I consider them as they come up, and I kind of just go from there. So
awesome. So you're having fun. You're open to the experiences. That's exciting. As we sort of wrap up and come to the end of the interview, what would you say to anyone who isn't a fan or has no idea who AsiaAmore is? Because you've been gone for a little while. You're sort of making a comeback. You're looking at getting back into consistent streams. Those people who may not have heard of you, what would you say to them? Why should they tune in?
Well, I don't really refer to like my viewers as fans for the most part. Like we're a community and we hang out and we just try and like have a good time. So, that's a pretty straightforward thing that I think a lot of people want to participate in for the most part. So, like if you're bored one day and you want to check out a Dota stream and hang out and say hi, like I would love to interact with you. And so definitely come by. Like I won't bite. I'm a friendly person, and maybe I can teach you something about Dota. You can teach me something. We'll see what happens.
Awesome. So come by for the community, not because you're a fan. I like that. It's a really good perspective to take. Do you have anything to say to your longtime, I was going to say longtime fans, but do you have anything to say to your longtime community members who've been with you for a long time?
Yes, there's so many of them, and it's like I can't even put it in words how grateful it is that people are willing to support me chasing this crazy wild dream that everybody tells me is impractical, but that I just love at the end of the day. And it's only possible because these people, out of the kindness of their hearts, are supporting me, and I'm just eternally grateful for all of that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, guys, it's time for us to wrap up. We've been going for about an hour now, and I have had a blast. Hopefully, you've enjoyed yourselves too. We gotta end with the plugs before we do our sign-outs because that's how we fund this bad boy. So once again, Toffees _Dota2 over on Twitter. You can follow AsiaAmore at _Asia_Amore. Over on Twitter. So if you're into underscore, she's the person to follow. And if you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/Toffees. Choose to contribute as little as $1 and keep us running. You can hit the PayPal donation tab on the bottom of your screen, or you can just hit the follow button for the channel or for Twitter. It just helps get more exposure and keeps us running. And that's kind of a big deal in the podcast world, keeping everything up when it needs to be. Thank you very much to AsiaAmore. I appreciate you being here, taking some time out of your busy schedule to spend it with us on the podcast. Do you have any last words before we sign out?
No, it's just thanks for everyone for stopping by, and thank you, Toffees, for this wonderful conversation. I'm glad we could have it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again to everyone who's listening, everybody who's stopped by, Asia as well, guys. It has been wonderful spending the evening with you, but it is time to let her get back to her stream and me to make sure that the kid is still sleeping. So have a great day. Enjoy DAC, play more Dota, and as always, Toffees out.